Many of our listeners are on the edge of the cliff. Please help walk them back.
Well, of course we're depressed that the House went to the Democrats and that we're going to have to hear Nancy Pelosi flapping her gums until her teeth fall out of her head for 2 years or until she drops over because she's so old. But remember, she doesn't even know who the president is. And in her entire platform as the leader of her party was to say, hate Trump, hate Trump. Now remember, when the president gets elected, generally the House and the Senate, there's a 10 to 20% shift in the next election because they try to balance out the power of the executive with the oversight of the Congress and the Senate. So don't be worried by this because the Senate is still under Republican control. They cannot impeach Trump, and they've already tried, of course, in the House, and they'll try it again, but they can't. They won't get the votes. And that's the reason they backed off of that and just said, hate Trump. And hate Trump and hate Trump, but don't talk about impeaching him anymore. Al Green, who put forth impeachment without a crime, impeachment proceedings without a crime, that's absurd. Plus, remember, it has to have the Senate. It has to go through the Senate. It will never go through the Senate. They can recommend impeachment all day long. But here's what's going to happen is the leadership. Remember, Pelosi and Paul Ryan sleep in the same bed. They eat the same breakfast, the same lunch, and the same dinner. And I think this year, some 200 bills they made sure never came before the public's attention or before the House. But when they want a bill, Paul Ryan makes one up without any other support from anybody else and throws it out on the floor and again uses it for political manipulation, along with what we're now going to see is the grotesque Democrat manipulation of the House. Let's remember the House is where Imran Awan had access to 80 different members of the House, all Democrats, all based upon Nancy Pelosi, demanding that they have Imran Awan, the Pakistani spy, have complete control of all their codes, including the House Intelligence Committee. Andre Carter, we're going to hear from these people again, these complete bozos who are going to try to turn around what Devin Nunes did in revealing the conspiracy for the attempted overthrow of Trump, both as a candidate and as a president. So what we're really seeing here is fantastically good news. Now, we predicted a red tsunami. There was a huge red tsunami. And all we get to see is where the attention was focused. And where was the attention focused? On Trump. Every candidate, the Senate races that he went and supported and some of the House races, those people flew to victory. But he couldn't focus on everyone. And so let's remember what we really have here. First, we had the historic number of people leave the Senate and the House. Why? Because Trump came to power. New sheriff in town who's going to actually have a rule of law, and the lawlessness of Obama, Clinton, Bush, and the rest of the gang out the window. They had to leave. They're corrupt. They didn't want to get busted. Who stayed and ensconced themselves in their position? The old guard, so they can hold on to those committee leadership positions. Because that's where the only oversight can happen, really. And it doesn't happen, and that's where they always walk it to a slow death. So we're going to see a lot of the effort that came out of the House Intelligence Committee go to the wayside. But it doesn't matter. In 2 years, here's the good news. There will be a 20%, 10 to 20% shift the other direction. So the House will absolutely go Republican next time.
Well, look, I don't believe the House votes one iota because we know how man-in-the-middle election rigging works. And I've got a link in the description box. Folks, you need to educate yourself to see that the election rigging doesn't occur just on the ground by illegals or people without ideas voting. This is also occurring in the digital realms. And we gave people plenty of notice to guard ourselves so that these votes would not be turned. But when I look at Debbie Wasserman Schultz having a 98,000 vote lead, or even when I looked at DeSantis' race early on, it was 60-40. That would be DeSantis 60, Gillum 40. And then at the end of the evening, just the last few remaining liberal counties and precincts were there to vote. Oh, and I don't think that they could hold it. I think that that's as good as they could do, and they had to give DeSantis the win that he deserved.
Absolutely. And that shows that no matter how much Soros money you have, a socialist doesn't necessarily get elected.
But I think every House person needs to read our article. And if you're listening to this, you need to forward it to the candidate that lost in the House and challenge this election. And challenge them by making those ballots be counted by hand. We need to make sure that foreign agents did not count the votes for us.
Absolutely, and I'll go to that in just a minute. But first,
you weren't getting there fast enough for me.
I know. I have it on the list in my brain.
Okay.
But the thing I want to say first is the MAGA Democrats. Don't forget, there's more than 23 MAGA Democrats. So if you want to really say, does Trump have control of the House? Yes, he does. And they sway all the time. That's why he makes the joke with Pelosi. Hey, if you need some votes, maybe we can get some Republicans to work with you so that we can get some work done. He's making a joke about the fact that the leadership in the Senate and the House are literally ran by the Chinese. With Mitch McConnell and his wife, of course, who's Chinese, and the head of the Transportation Department, having massive shipping contracts that the gold goes into her purse, and Mitch McConnell's, and with
Dianne Feinstein.
Oh, yes. These old members of the Senate and Congress who hold these positions as leaders of these committees, that is where the power is. And as I say, if they have one of those positions, generally, if you even think that they're slightly corrupt, they have an offshore account and they're being paid for what it is they're doing. So now we're going to see that shift in the House, and we're going to see Mad Maxine Waters go after Trump. We're going to see crazy Nancy Pelosi, who doesn't even know who the president is, go after whoever the president is. She doesn't know. But what we're also going to see is the MAGA Republicans got weeded out. If you're not a MAGA, then you're out. Democrat, there's some MAGAs, and that they came over to Trump. Some of the Republicans weren't MAGA. They're out. That's okay. He's weeding the garden. He's getting his Trump team together. And when he changes it from MAGA to CAGA, keep America great always.
CAG. So, I don't know whoever came up with these slogans.
I came up with the
But they needed to think about what it sounded when we shortened it. Okay, let's get to the tweets.
No, wait. As you said, it was rigged. Now, what we told you is the following. We saw Soros came over, gave $1.5 billion through the Atlantic Council to Facebook, Instagram, and other groups. We saw Eric Schmidt basically create Dragonfly, bring it over, control the news through the digital news initiative. We got to see that free speech was squelched. If you're a conservative, you just got kicked off of these sites. They're supposed to be a platform for freedom of speech. No, they're not. We got to see clearly exactly what we were hoping we were going to see, and what we have done for the last 4 months or so is reveal to you the corruption that happened last night. Now, we know that corruption happened, and we know there's white hats who captured that corruption, and now we're going to get it to Trump. Because for the 2020 election, the corruption we saw last night, which again, it took a red tsunami just to get the results that we got. Remember, that happened with Trump. One of the largest amount of votes given was to Trump. And now look at he's got the popularity percentages of no president before him. It is not possible that it wasn't a tsunami. But when you look at the numbers, they weren't tsunamis because it was rigged. We showed you how it's rigged. We now get to go after the riggers for the 2020 to make sure it doesn't happen, so that when the Senate and the Congress, the House, goes totally Republican, he has 4 years of actually restoring our republic.
Well, that leads us to the first tweet, and it is a quote from Ben Stein from the Capitalist Code. Trump tweets out, "There's only been 5 times in the last 105 years that an incumbent president has won seats in the Senate in the off-year election. Mr. Trump has magic about him. This guy has magic coming out of his ears. He is an astonishing vote-getter and campaigner. The Republicans are unbelievably lucky to have him, and I'm just awed at how well they've done. It's all the Trump magic. Trump is the magic man. Incredible. He's got the entire media against him, attacking him every day, and he pulls out these enormous wins."
Absolutely, another historic moment. And we need to remember that as I was standing in line to vote, I was surrounded by Trump haters. I could feel the hate coming off of them. And every person that they voted for was not the person they voted for. They voted for Hillary. These are Trump haters voting for Hillary. And then you have the Trump haters in all the mainstream media. And you have the Hillary supporters who, from her grave, they will still run her as president in 2020. It does not matter. Why? Because they can't get over the fact that the criminality is in their face They've been subliminally programmed to accept this criminality and to go on as if it isn't right in front of their eyes. So with the entire mainstream media against him, he went out and he had these campaign meetings that showed that he was the most popular politician in American history. And so therefore they couldn't rig the votes against the people he was supporting. Now could they? And so that's what we got to see. MAGA votes did not get manipulated, but where it did not count. Remember, Senate positions are the most corrupt positions in America. You do not become the senior citizen of a state, a senior senator from a state, unless you are getting paid under the table. And you certainly haven't been there for more than 2 or 3 terms unless you are corrupt. Period. That's just the way that it is. Now, if you can find somebody that is not that way, okay, you're going to say Rand Paul. Well, but Rand Paul has a whole separate thing that he's doing that he also gets paid for. Don't forget, there's a certain corruption going on there too. Because that's like a Bernie Sanders saying he's a true socialist, or this youngest person ever, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of the most uninformed politicians in U.S. history. It shows you where we're at. It's okay. They will all be weeded out finally in the 2020 election, because we're going to stop the rigging, because we're not going to stop for the next 2 years pointing out how this election specifically was rigged. Every intelligence agency was supposed to be on high alert to make sure it didn't happen.
And it
still happened.
They let it. Now let's go on to these tweets. Another one, and Trump responds, "Thanks, I agree." It's a quote from someone, David Assman, Fox. Okay, speaking of Fox News, wasn't that just absolutely disgusting to see how Fox and Breitbart and Drudge and all these places that claim that they're, backing MAGA and conservatives just fall and collapse and show us the ugly propaganda that they are. But let me continue with the quote. How do the Democrats respond to this? Think of how his position with Republicans improves. All the candidates who won tonight, they realize how important he is because of what he did in campaigning for them. They owe him their political career.
Now, let me point something out. In the past, it was how much money you raised for your campaign that then bought your ads, which controlled whether you were elected, period. And that's still the case. To some degree, George Soros pouring in billions at the last minute with public service announcements or with his subliminal control campaign announcements. Trump couldn't get his by, one that was very, very, very convincing that the caravan is in fact an invasion. But George Soros campaign TV ads, no stopping them. So what is really going on here, folks? People have come forward to run even for the Senate who had no money, who had no backers, who didn't even have the state election system for the Republicans or the Democrats behind them. But when Trump was behind them, they won. Why? Because he has shown that you don't need the money to get on the news. You need content. Every time he opens his mouth, he gets on the news. Every time he has a campaign rally, he gets on the news. And every time he does anything, it's free. His tweets are free. Okay, let's remember that the Dems spent, $300 million more than the Republicans did? Why? Because Trump got probably, untold amounts of free publicity. That's what it's about. So if you're going to be a Trump supporter, we shouldn't call it MAGA anymore because he's going to change it. If you're going to be a Trumpite.
But they need to come up with something better than CAG.
It should be
win.
win.
I agree that it's keep America great, but what are we supposed to do for the next 2 years? CAG?
Win again.
I don't know. So whoever was responsible for that, they need to go back to their marketing 101.
Yeah.
It's really weak. But anyway, that's the least of our worries. Now let's move on. The next one is received so many congratulations from so many on our big victory last night, including from foreign nationals, nations, friends, that were waiting me out and hoping on trade deals. Now we can get back to work and get things done.
And you see, it is predicted that if the Congress went Democratic, the stock market would crash. It didn't. It rallied. It was predicted that the trade deals would falter. Wrong. We don't need the House. We don't need Pelosi for trade deals. We don't need Pelosi for anything except to pass some legislation concerning immigration, but it doesn't matter. Trump is already getting ready to basically endorse the 14th Amendment, which basically ends the stupid idea of anchor babies, and which is so clearly spelled out that anyone who doesn't read it as it is just looking for an excuse to be a George Soros open society, open borders person, because it clearly states that you are not a citizen if you were born to an illegal or an alien in America. You have to be a citizen and born to a citizen. So anyway, he's going to do that. He's going to do something on DACA. He's going to do something in the border. He's already done. So really, we don't need the House. He has a 2-year omnibus budget. He has the biggest allotments for the military and the NDAA. He's already signed for 2 years, never done before. He has that all set. And if he gets Jim Jordan as the minority leader in the House, Pelosi doesn't remember what party she's in. All she remembers is she's supposed to go out and scream apocalypse anytime somebody says something that she doesn't like.
You guys in the House, you need to run that old woman on super speed and make her absolutely crash on the floor and burn. She's an old lady and she can only get that bag of bones around so far. Her memory is failing. We can watch her implode right here on national television. And let me say something about the writ of mandamus that we tried to get through to the Supreme Court. Well, as we all expected, little technical details, they have to boot it back to us, and nothing was able to be done with it at this time. But don't forget, a copy of this was given to Mike Pence. And Mike Pence is supposed to be helping Trump with election rigging. We put it right in front of him and told him, this is where it's going. We showed him man in the middle. We showed him so many places where the corruption and the election rigging has gone on. And I want to see Mike Pence do something. I don't want to see crickets here. And the other place we took it was the Department of Homeland Security. Plus, it's been on the internet everywhere. So you people in Washington, you can pretend that you don't hear the people out here, but we are here. And we're going to keep pushing. Do not give up, patriots. Do not. That's what they want you to do. They want to discourage you with the election rigging that went on last night to keep you from going on. And do not. We're going to push ahead, and we're going to push right through 2020 until we can clear this swamp and have America great again.
And if you have a close race, do what Betsy said. Contest it.
Make
them count it.
Make them hand count those races.
Look at Abrams, one of the biggest losses in U.S. political history, and yet she wants to have a complete recount. We need a recount on anywhere where it was very slim winnings. So we need a recount on Debbie Wasserman Schultz's
Debbie
tally.
Wasserman Schultz, they rigged that one. Look, okay, we got DeSantis. We already talked about him. And Trump tweeted him out. He's the governor of Florida. That was a close call. But I think that the MAGA vote was so big there, they could not control it from their digital end. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, and it's when you say no to Gillum, you say no to Soros, no to open society, no to socialism, no to fascism, no to the caravan, no to the invasion, and no to George Soros, who is a Hungarian. Hello. He is foreign invader. He's a foreign invader. He is an economic terrorist. He is not an American, and why we let him get away with what he gets away with?
He's not Hungarian either. Didn't they kick him out?
They kicked out his university and all of his influence there.
So is he a citizen without a country? When you say he's not American, people are going to be in the comment boxes, well, technically.
No, he is still a Hungarian. They kicked out his university.
Is he an American?
Yes, he is.
All right, so then
he's a dual citizen.
All right, he's a dual citizen. So that when you say he's not an American, we don't mean technically. You just mean in his spirit.
He doesn't pay taxes. He's not an American.
Okay.
He's not a citizen.
He's an enemy.
He works against us. He's an enemy of the state. He's an enemy of every American except those that are on his side. And who does he want on his side? He gave $18 billion to non-government organizations who were active in this election. He gave $1.5 billion to Facebook through the Atlantic Council. All election rigging, free speech ended on Facebook, and then they sent who? The ex assistant
Nick Clegg, is that who you're talking about? The Privy Council guy?
Yes.
And they sent him over here to run Facebook. Well, because in the bottom line is the Queen still runs the place. I mean, this is why we cannot give up, folks. Because remember, on Saul Alinsky's Rules of Radicals, the last step is outlast your opponent. We cannot give up.
The Queen sent over the basically the second most powerful person in Britain. He had held the position as the assistant prime minister. And from that position, he comes over to basically run Facebook for the election. Because why? Dude Zuckerberg got caught red-handed with his basically his antitrust activity, his RICO activity, his monopoly of Facebook in terms of controlling who was raised up in the searches and in the ads and who was put down. And of course, it was the Democrats were raised up and the conservatives and Trump, the Republicans, were put down. It's against the law. It is, in fact, antitrust. It's RICO. It's monopoly. It's broadcasting crimes. And good old Nick Clegg comes over to make sure that Facebook continues to do this. Now, what we have said is this election was the perfect example for the election rigging to actually be caught. And so those who were paying attention, if you looked where we told you to look, you would have seen it. And we just want to thank all of you who went out and did create that red tsunami to make sure that we gave many, many more votes than they actually counted so that we could hold the positions that we held in terms of both Republicans and Democrats who are MAGA.
The next tweet. Those that worked with me in this incredible midterm election, embracing certain policies and principles, did very well. Those that did not, say goodbye. Yesterday was such a very big win, and all under the pressure of a nasty and hostile media.
Completely nasty and hostile. But they're so happy that they get to hear Pelosi again, flapping her gums. They're just so thrilled by that. But let's remember, there was no Cambridge Analytica. There was no Strategic Communication Laboratory intervention. There was no Global Engagement Center acting
Why are our votes getting hustled over digitally to Ireland to be counted? Why is the voting system in America being relegated outside of this country for voting? That is an opportunity for foreign actors to come in and meddle with the election. And we have shown it. We have documented it. We have given you lists of where each state is sending them. And why hasn't anybody, Mike Pence, done anything about this?
The Secretary of State should all be asked why they're sending their tallies outside of this country for their encryption code verification before they transmit that to where it needs to be transmitted to for the final tally. We've demonstrated this last night and the day before. We gave you the lists of who is responsible for this. Entrust, DigiCert,
Microsoft, Amazon, GoDaddy. What are they doing? What are they doing interfering with the counting process?
Ireland, Belgium, Britain, all of those nations were part of counting and verifying our tallies last night. How can that be possible? We got so upset. Remember when they accused Trump of using Cambridge Analytica in 2016? Well, he didn't. He used, actually, Brad Parscale told very specifically, used 270,000 pieces of information derived from British users of an inquiry that was given out by Cambridge Analytica. Now, 2 years later, 87 million people supposedly were used by Brad Parscale so Trump could win the election. That's the way that story's told. That is such nonsense. No, the Global Engagement Center hired, and we have the proof of that, the mother company of Cambridge Analytica, Strategic Communications Laboratories, during the 2016 election, and they used $76 million from We the People to create false Russian attacks and to attack people who were not voting for Hillary. It was completely geared towards Hillary. So now, that didn't happen this time. Many things didn't happen this time. And the vote was much closer, and probably as close as we're going to get until we take Optech as the software out of all these election machines, which are all rigged, and we take people like Mitt Romney out of being a company, Hart Intercivic, that owns these election machines in 17 states. We have to stop that, and we have to stop that for 2020. And now that we've seen the corruption here, and it's still okay because Trump still will not be impeached because the Senate is still under Republican control.
Oh,
it's
but
okay.
you
We
watch
move forward.
Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney is no good for America, and he'll be up there trying to get some kind of impeachment thing going in the Senate. Watch him.
Mitt will probably run against Trump in 2020. He will try in the primaries to run against him.
let's keep going on. We could go off on so many sidetracks. Now, Trump is going to be doing a news conference at 11:30 a.m. and right now we are audio taping, so we'll be jumping off so we can hear that, and we encourage you to do the same. We don't know what he's going to say there. And then another reminder that the news is fake news, and we all know that, at least on this broadcast we do. And so let's go to the last two tweets. If the Democrats think they are going to waste taxpayer money investigating us at the House level, then we will likewise be forced to consider investigating them for all the leaks of classified information and much else at the Senate level. Two can play that game.
Adam Schiff is who he's talking about, the House Intelligence Committee releasing information. We're talking about when Dianne Feinstein released the Glenn Simpson behind closed door intelligence questions that he came and gave testimony for. We on and on and on. That's what Trump is talking about. And basically he's laughing, saying, go ahead, Mad Maxine. Do whatever you want. I've already had my taxes. You see, these people are so stupid. When you're as big as Trump, you don't have taxes at the end of the year. It takes like 5 years to get your taxes together. It's so stupid. There was a committee that went and actually assessed his entire assets, and it's already been turned in. And so to turn in the taxes, if he turned in the taxes, he said it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, you wouldn't understand a bit of it. So the fact that they want to go after his taxes or they want to go after his Russian connections, that's going to go nowhere, folks. So Mad Maxine, I hope, just like with Pelosi, that you are screaming so loud that all of a sudden you stop screaming.
And the final one for us today is, in all fairness, Nancy Pelosi deserves to be chosen Speaker of the House by the Democrats. If they give her a hard time, perhaps we will add some Republican votes. She has earned this great honor.
Yes, he's making a joke here. This is tongue-in-cheek. Of course, she's already been in this great honor before, and she was a wreck then. She couldn't keep track of what was going on. She had to be corrected every time she opened her mouth. She's going to do it again. He's laughing, saying, this is the best you have. Remember when he said, oh, no, I want Pelosi. No, don't let everyone fight over that. Let Pelosi be the Speaker again. No problem. Why? Because she doesn't know who she is, what day it is, or anything. Listen to anything that woman has said in the last year.
But
her mind is gone.
Trump has an executive order, and he said he was going to take election rigging and interference and foreign meddling seriously, and that there would be consequences for it. I want to see in the next 90 days some results from their own internal investigations that showed what was going on behind the scenes. Because people, this was not one U.S. citizen, one vote. This was a whole lot of anything else but.
Yeah, that's a fact. What was the tally with Debbie Wasserman Schultz?
98,000 votes ahead of her opponent, whoever it is. But they had to protect Debbie Wasserman Schultz because she protects Imran Awan, which could bring down the whole House. And then you look at Donna Shalala down there. Oh, please. She won too, apparently. People, contest it. Make a hand count of all these paper ballots. And only you, the citizens, can demand this.
That's correct. And do not capitulate. If you're a MAGA follower, do not capitulate. It is lies. That is Avid. That is ISIS management. That is Leader Plus. That is basically Richard Bloom, Dianne Feinstein's husband, 10% owner of Avid. And they're the ones who produced everything you heard on the news last night. Everything except a little bit of Fox. And that's why I didn't watch any of it, because it was all so tainted. And I still don't watch it, and I'm not going to watch it, and I'm only going to look at the results. And then when I look at the results, I'm going to compare those to what we know would have been reality. And I'm sorry, it was not a valid vote. But we'll still take the results as they were, because remember, Trump is in a war with all these people. He's the great disruptor. And the disruptive force in modern technology is the one that leads. And so he is disrupting, and he's disrupting on purpose. And what we just saw was a disruption of a lot of the corrupt people in Washington jumping ship before this election, and then other people thinking that they could just slide right in and fill these positions, and they're complete idiots. The people who fill these positions as Democrats, they may be more MAGA than Paul Ryan or Mitch McConnell, okay? The rhinos are not Republican. And so Trump is making a joke.
No, they're not MAGA.
They're not
And
MAGA.
what we're seeing really is a shift of where the party alignments are. It's what we're going to see is it's no longer going to be this old version where the globalists had us thinking that it was Democrats versus Republican. We're going to start seeing the shift where it's going to be MAGA versus the globalists.
And if Jim Jordan becomes the head of the minority in the House, he is going to give Nancy Pelosi these next 2 years will be the worst 2 years of her life, and that'll be beautiful. I can't wait for it to happen.
Oh, I want him to run her all over the place. I'm saying she's old, she's tired, she cannot withstand the stamina of someone like Jim Jordan. So, everyone out there,